You have to know that there's a wonderful cliche phrase to be yourself that feels very, very good on a heart level. Just be yourself, man. You just got to be yourself. Be your most authentic self, right? It's very cliche. It does feel well, but there's nothing farther from the truth in the higher reality of life. We did not come into this world to be ourselves. Okay, if we wanted to stay the same and be ourselves, we would have stayed a neshama, a soul in heaven, where there's non-duality, where there's no contrast, where it's a world of truth and you can be your authentic self all you want for all eternity. But when a soul comes into the world, into a world of contrast, of duality, of challenge, that is all for the purpose of growth. Every soul comes to the world because Earth is like a university and we all specialize in our own area of our soul curriculum. And the furthest thing from the truth is to just be yourself. We come into the world with certain strengths, talents, characteristics, right? But the Torah tells us that we're not supposed to remain what we come in the world with, but we need to embrace our opposite. We're going to get back to this and elaborate on this very point, but first, an overview of what we're going to do today. First, we're going to look at some text sources from this week's Torah portion. Here's the thing. You have two twins, one named Yaakov or Jacob, and the other is Esau or Esav. And both of them are supposed to continue the legacy of Abraham and Yitzchak, Abraham and Isaac. And both of them were born twins. The original plan was not that one would continue the legacy and the other one would be left out. They both were given designated tasks in the world. Yaakov was the introvert. The Torah says that he is a simple man, a pure man, an ish tamim, yoshev ba'ohel. He's a one who sits in tents. Okay, so he's the simple one, the pure one, the scholar, the introvert, the one who lives in a world of ideas and wisdom. And the life of the spirit, the inner world, inner reality, is more his focus than anything else. Whereas the other twin, the older twin, Esav, the Torah describes him as a man of the field. That means he's an extrovert. He's more interested in the external world. His life is, he's most comfortable out on the field doing things that are worldly. He's also a warrior, he's a hunter, and the Torah says that his father Isaac, between the two twins, that Yitzchak, Isaac, loved Esav. Meaning of the two twins, the one that the father really believed would be the man to get the things done in life is the worldly one, the warrior. He's more ambitious, he's more focused, he's more goal-driven, and at the end of the day, he will get things done, and that's what's important. Because the legacy of Israel is on the line. The legacy of Israel, the future of Israel, depends on who the next patriarch would be, the next father, biblical father. So Isaac saw real potential in Esav. The only thing is that the mother Rebecca, she had a different opinion. She had a little bit more of the intuition as a mother. And she saw that Esav is problematic. There's a part of him that loves the external world a little too much, and that he's a little bit detached from the work that Jacob is supposed to contribute. Okay, so what does this mean? We said that both of them had a job in the world, a task, a spiritual task. Jacob, in addition to being a man of tents, he was supposed to assume the role of the priest. What does this mean? It means that his job, in Kabbalistic terms, was to download the light. He's supposed to bring the light and the blessing into the world. And Esau, Kabbalistically speaking, is in charge of the vessel, the physical aspect of existence, and the vessel is there to contain the light. That means that both of them together as a pair, as twins working in a harmonious way, would be able to just transform the entire world. Whereas one focuses on the spiritual, that's the priest, the scholar, the introvert Jacob, and to infuse civilization, the vessel aspect of existence, would depend, of course, on Esau's willingness to work with Jacob. The only thing is that we said earlier is that the mother noticed that there's a difference, and she intervened by setting up a betrayal of Jacob stealing or taking or assuming Esau's responsibility for himself. Meaning, in addition to whatever his job in the world was, he would have to also inherit Esau's blessing or his task in the world, and he would inherit both the light and the vessel. The interesting story that the Torah gives us is that there's an interaction between Jacob and Esau, where Esau comes back home from hunting, and he's very, very hungry, and he sees that Jacob is cooking up a really delicious meal of lentils, and Esau is very unrefined, very brutish. He doesn't call the dish by its name, lentils. He calls it by its color. You know, I want the brown one, I want the white one, right? It's like when a child is very hungry, they don't use names. They don't say, I want vanilla bean or French vanilla ice cream or dark fudge chocolate. They say the brown one, the white one, right? So we see just from Esau's vocabulary, his choice of words, that he's not very refined, right? He's not a good oral speaker, and he has a huge appetite, and he's very hungry. And Jacob says, are you willing to exchange your birthright for this pot of lentils? And Esau says yes. And there is an indication that he despises his birthright, right? So what do we learn from this whole encounter? That Jacob's a manipulator, right? Well, that would be one way of looking at it. But I think a more honest, reasonable way to look at it is Jacob is testing his brother. He wants to see if his brother has any interest at all in his birthright, meaning his spiritual task as a patriarch in Israel. Are you interested in assuming your birthright, your task given to you? And the fact that Esau answers that he's hungry and willing to exchange it to feed his appetite is very, very revealing on a symbolic level. And Jacob is merely asking the question. He's only feeling things out. He's testing Esau. How do we know he's testing Esau? The whole Torah is full of tests, right? Every story we hear is a test in one way or another. And so he's very surprised at Esau's very strong willingness to despise his birthright and to, in exchange, to fulfill his appetite. Now, one of the things that's really crucial to understanding our tests in life, how God or the universe tests us, is that you're never going to be tested in an area that is within your comfort zone. Your tests are always going to be outside your comfort zone. So Abraham was a man that was known for chesed, loving kindness. But if you notice, all of his tests were outside of love and kindness. His test, he was never tested with being in the area of hospitality, but he was tested in fighting, in military when he went into battle with the Canaanite kings. He was tested with a very difficult son, Ishmael, having to send him off contrary to what he would have done on his own. We have the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, that we see that who Abraham naturally is he defends people. He sees the good in them, even in sinners. So he's defending sinners, and God says, okay, but here's your test. If you're willing to defend sinners, I'm going to tell you to sacrifice your own son. Your beloved son, your only son Isaac, right? And this is now outside of who Abraham naturally is. It's outside of his comfort zone. And he's being tested in the area of Devorah, right? People of Chesed will be tested in Devorah. People who are in Devorah will be tested in Chesed. Our favorite part is the personal application. So here we go. So a human soul comes into this world with certain strengths, talents, natural dispositions, and of course it has its weaknesses, its limitations. Okay, so your natural strengths is what you should use. Usually the first part of your life is you're learning to embrace all your things that are part of your nature, right? Who you really are, right? So let's say I'm a person who despises rules. I'm a free spirit. I despise structure, routine. Okay, so what the Torah is telling us is that whoever you are when you're born, God bless you, that's a great thing, but that's not how you're going to fulfill your destiny. That's not how you're going to reach ultimate happiness. So in the case of the person who despises structure and rules, well, guess what? Guess what? They're going to be tested in the very area of their natural disposition, meaning you're going to see that your way stops working up to a certain point. Meaning you've tried it again and again and again, being who you are, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't bring you to the next station in life. It doesn't make you happy. Will it make you successful? Meaning, yes, it could make you successful. Will it make you happy? That's a different question. So your test will be to reach outside of yourself. Your growth will occur outside of your comfort zone, as they say. So I will learn that a routine, a repetitive routine, having structure is going to be ultimately how I'm going to gain my strength and fulfillment and happiness in life. Now, is that true for everybody? And the answer is no, it's not true for everybody, because there's some people that only work around structure. Everything is about following rules. They have lived their entire lives within the box, and they're going to be tested and challenged to the point where they're going to find that they're not happy. They're empty inside. And so what they have to do is break through beyond that rigid structure, the discipline, and be more spontaneous, be more intuitive, learn to live outside of your box, and that's when you're gonna feel it inside. You're gonna go, oh my God, my life is just working all of a sudden. I'm being my opposite, and it works. So if I'm naturally a liberal, okay, it might be that some of the traditional values is going to make life work for me. But if I'm naturally traditional and conservative and live inside of a box and a whole set of rules, it might be something else that gets me out of that natural disposition. That's gonna do it for me. So this isn't a very important thing, because you're going to waste your time just trying to be yourself your whole life, and you're going to wonder why is it that I'm myself? I'm being myself. I love myself. I honor myself. I'm allowing my authentic self to shine, but you're still the same miserable person you've always been. Until what? Until you try something different. So here's another example. Let's say you're the type of person that naturally is considerate of others, meaning you naturally put other people before yourself. And that's how you make your choices in life, right? You, based on what the needs are of others. You're here to serve others. So ultimately, what is going to be that which you find happiness and fulfillment in? The ultimate lesson is how to sometimes say no to other people. How to develop boundaries and feeling that it's okay to give yourself permission to prioritize yourself and your own needs before others. Is it selfish? It's going to feel selfish, but I'm telling you, it's part of your personal tikkun. It's part of your correction, your soul fixing, your karmic fixing, right? The opposite is true too. If you're the kind of person that when somebody asks for a favor or requests something from you, and the first thing that crosses your mind is, how will this benefit me based on what I personally get out of it, will be my answer yes or no to the request. Your ultimate lesson in life will be in serving others and putting other people's needs before your own. That can be done in a group, it can be done in a marriage or a relationship or in family life. Okay, so it's all... So again, the tools, the strengths you're born with, you can still use them when applicable, but at some point in your life, like Jacob had to embrace his twin's character, right? You also have to embrace your twin, your opposite, okay? In order to be a complete being. Jacob went from a pure person, ish tam. Tam is tamim, a pure, simple person, an introvert, shy, a dweller of tents, and ultimately he had to stand up and fight his brother, and ultimately the real name change, where he changes into Israel, comes through a battle. It comes through a fight, because that's not who Jacob is. He's not a fighter. Okay? We are descendants of Jacob today. We are Israel. And think about the areas where we are tested. It's the same as Jacob. We're scholars, we're priests throughout history. We're thinkers, we're philosophers, we're psychologists, right? We live in the world of ideas. What's the greatest tikkun for the descendants of Jacob? It's the same challenge that he had, right? How to be a man of the field, how to be Esau. What's a man of the field? It's agriculture. It's military, right? Think of the two areas that Israel today, modern Israel, the two areas that modern Israel shines in, is known all over the world, is in the area of farming, field work, military. Has one of the most respected armies in the world. But this is coming from a people who are genuinely passive. We're not aggressive people. Naturally, Jews are not aggressive. That's why we're probably the biggest target for hate crimes all over the world and throughout history, because the other sense that we're a soft people, right? We're not fighters. We're not naturally aggressive. But look at how we had to step up and prove ourselves in the modern day. It's the same for all of us. It's the same for all of us. We have to embrace not naturally who we are, but what is unnatural to ourselves. Okay, I wish everybody blessing and strength and clarity to find your way through this wonderful and often difficult and chaotic world. Happy navigating, friends, and we'll see you next week. Blessings.